Hi guys, I'm Angie, and today I'm going to show you how I make this planter bench for my porch.
Recently I redid my front porch and now I have this big empty space where there used to be a planting area. I wanted to build a new planter in the same spot as the previous one, but I also wanted to build a bench in between the two plants I just bought from Home Depot. So I started my basic idea in SketchUp to figure out how much wood I need to buy and cut. Since a lot of these pieces are the same in length, I set up a stop block next to my miter saw so I can get the exact same cut every time without having to remeasure. Once all my pieces were cut, I took them to my neighbor's shop to get them planed so I can minimize the amount of sanding I'd have to do later. Thank you Lou and Tom for letting me use your planer. I use pocket holes to connect the corner pieces so we don't see screws on the outside. As I prep the holes, I also clamped down a brush to my workbench to help me easily wipe off sawdust that got stuck in the drill bit before moving on to the next one. Next, I clamped down the corners together and drew in the screws. I repeated this 3 more times to complete the rest of the corners. To construct the walls, I connected the remainder's 2x4s to the corner pieces by gluing and screwing them into the horizontal 1x4s. I also used countersink bits so my screw heads are flush with the wood. I made a slight modification to my original plan by mitering off the 1x4's corners. Next, I added some scrap 2x2 on the inside of the planter box so the plant will sit a few inches above the ground. This also helped reinforce the surrounding walls. I later add some scrap fence picket that I cut to size that will sit on the 2x2. I also added a small scrap 2x4 onto one of the walls of the planter box so that will help support the bench. Based on the original design, I should be done with the planter by now. But because I wasn't too happy with the way the 2x4s on the planter box were exposed, I decided to add some 1x4 as a nice clean looking cover. I cut some more 1x4 with miter corners and attached them using glue and thread nails. To cover up the holes, I made some inedible tuna paste by mixing sawdust and dog hair that I found around the garage with wood glue. I only did this to the 2 sides that would be seen the most. I also used the mixture to fill in the cracks of the miter corners. Next fun step is a whole lot of sanding. While I was assembling the planters, I got an idea for my bench and decided to make another slight change to my design. I wanted to use some scrap wood that was lying around my garage and use the negative space to display a message as part of the seat. So I went back to the computer and fired up SketchUp to play around with my ideas and figure out my cut lengths for the 1x2s. I decided to use the word hello as my built-in message, and the letters of the words are going to be in the negative space between the wood. I drew a diagram of the pattern and started building up the bench starting with a solid 1x4. I added the scrap wood with glue and nails. After the first solid 1x4, I made sure to leave a notch on each end of the bench going all the way up. This is where the bench will rest on top of the scrap 2x4 I previously attached to the planters. To make it a little bit more sturdy, I added one more 1x4 to each end and extra screws along the bench. After many hours of staring at this planter bench, I decided to countersink a little deeper to completely cover the screw heads. So I repeated the whole process with extra sawdust paste and sanding again. Now that it's time to paint, I pull out a brand new paint sprayer that I got from Amazon. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. It's very quick to get something painted, dry pretty fast, and look evenly distributed once it's dry. But it's quite a process to clean out this device for the next use versus using a cheap brush which I can toss after each use. Maybe it's a good purchase after all since I didn't add extra paintbrush to the landfill.